A heartwarming discovery. Billionaire uncovered the incredible reason Maid's daughter was up at 3 a.m. In a quiet suburb of Chicago, life for Sarah was far from glamorous. At 3 a.m., she jolted awake to a sudden thump. Her heart raced as shadows danced in her modest apartment. Panic gripped her as she spotted Emily, her 10-year-old daughter, slipping out the door. "Emily, where are you going?" Sarah whispered urgently, her voice barely above a breath. She felt the tightening in her chest, envisioning all the dangers lurking in the darkness. The neighborhood held whispers of safety, and as a single mom, the weight of unworthiness loomed over her. Uncertainties twisted in her mind like a storm. Had she failed her child? Just moments earlier, Sarah had fought her own insecurities, exhausted after cleaning palatial homes for families bathed in privilege. Each day she scrubbed away invisible, layered dust off polished chandeliers, wondering when her life would ever feel as bright. Emily was her hope, her light, and the bond they shared was all she had. But how could she hold on to that hope if her daughter was roaming the streets at night? With a tight grip on her phone, she dialed her neighbor, her fingers trembling. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As Sarah fumbled with her phone, her heart sank. She could picture Emily, so innocent and kind-hearted, standing at the local shelter, giving sandwiches to those in need, an echo of the life they wished to lead. A chance encounter with Mark, the philanthropic billionaire who owned half of downtown Chicago, brought that vision to reality. He had witnessed Emily's earnest spirit, and in a single heartbeat felt awakened. Was this unlikely pairing meant to bridge two worlds? A world where wealth embraced purpose and kindness found its place amid chaos? But a day came when Emily's newfound passion ignited scrutiny. Judgments flew like arrows as the community whispered behind Sarah's back, questioning how a maid could raise a child with such ambition. Burdened with their weighs on her heart, Sarah faced a choice that shook her core. Should she accept Mark's offers of help and risk the derogatory gazes of her neighbors, or fight alone, preserving her dignity as she traversed the bumps of life? Everything hung in the air like a storm ready to burst. In that moment, Sarah realized life's complexities twisted into a tangled web of judgment and misconceptions.
As she prepared for what lay ahead, determination replaced fear. She grabbed the door handle, ready to dive into the unknown, alone but emboldened. What does it mean to stand tall amid adversity? The weight of the world bore down on her as she made her choice, uncertain, hopeful, yet ready to embrace whatever circumstances awaited. The cold air hit Sarah's face like a slap as she stepped outside. The neighborhood was quiet, illuminated only by the flickering streetlights. Anxiety twisted in her stomach, but she pressed forward, her heart racing. Every instinct told her to chase after Emily, to bring her back to the safety of their home. But somehow, there was also a sense of purpose guiding her. This was the moment that would define them both. "Emily!" she called softly, fear wrapping around her like a thick fog. She kept her voice steady, trying not to let the rising panic betray her. She strained her ears, listening for any sign of her daughter. The muffled sounds of distant traffic became her backdrop, a reminder of the world beyond their little street, a world that felt so foreign and ominous at that hour. Just a few blocks away, Sarah spotted a small figure standing at the entrance of the local shelter. The lights from inside spilled out into the darkness, revealing Emily's silhouette as she handed someone a sandwich. Sarah stumbled to a halt, her heart swelling with pride and dread. Her daughter had a heart bigger than the neighborhood she'd grown up in, but at what cost? Before she could call out to her, she saw a face emerge from the shadows. A man in scruffy clothes, his expression weary, yet grateful as he accepted the food. "Thank you, sweetheart," he said to Emily, his voice hoarse. "God bless you." It was an innocent exchange, simple yet profound, but it also ignited the old fears that had plagued Sarah for years. Would this kindness put Emily in danger? "Emily!" Sarah's voice broke through the moments that felt suspended in time, filled with a mixture of love and fear. As she rushed forward, thoughts flooded her mind. What if this was the night she lost everything? Startled, Emily turned around. Her eyes widened as she spotted her mom, and for a moment, Sarah read recognition and a spark of guilt. I just wanted to help, Mom," she stammered, her voice trembling. "I know, baby, but it's dangerous out here at night," Sarah said, kneeling to meet her eye level. She could feel the heaviness of unspoken words, the pressure of expectations, the weight of being the one everyone looked down upon. "Please don't do this again. You can help, just not like this, okay?" Emily bit her lip, her brows furrowing in deep thought. "But Mom, those people need us. They need someone to care. If I can do something, shouldn't I?" There was a spark in her daughter's voice that ignited something deep within Sarah. Taking a deep breath, Sarah took her daughter's hands in her own, feeling their warmth. "You're right, sweetheart. They do need us, but we need to find a way to help them safely, together." Swallowing hard, Sarah thought of Mark and the resources at his disposal. He could help Emily make a difference, to channel her passion into something remarkable without exposing her to risks. And yet, would accepting his help really mean giving in to the whispers of judgment? As Emily nodded, uncertainty flickered across her face. "So we can be like a team?" "Absolutely," Sarah said softly, cherishing the hope budding in her heart. "We'll find our way, but it will take time." Determined, they started walking home under a sky scattered with stars. Every step felt lighter, fueled by the promise of tomorrow. With newfound resolve swinging in the air, Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling of change looming on the horizon. But lurking in the shadows behind them, unseen and unheard, an unexpected watcher observed the two. An unexpected figure had witnessed everything unfold. When this person stepped into their lives, they would alter the course of Sarah and Emily's journey forever. As they made their way home, the silence of the night wrapped around Sarah and Emily, each step bringing a little more clarity to their shared resolve. The crisp air was filled with the scent of dew and distant car exhaust, and with every breath, Sarah could feel the weight of her worries gradually lift, even as echoes of their earlier conversation lingered in her mind. "Do you think we can really make a difference, Mom?" Emily's voice broke through the stillness, more hesitant now. "Of course we can," Sarah reassured her, glancing over with a small smile. "We just have to be smart about it." The truth was, Sarah felt a surge of hope. She had never dreamed of becoming an activist of sorts, but Emily's passion was infectious. If they could channel that into something legitimate and impactful, they might not only help others, but also strengthen the bond between them. She envisioned Emily leading fundraisers, organizing community events, making changes that rippled out into the world. As they turned the corner onto their block, headlights suddenly illuminated the street. A black sedan rolled up, the engine rumbling softly before it came to a stop. Sarah's stomach twisted uneasily. "Stay close to me," she whispered, instinctively tightening her grip on Emily. The car door opened, and a tall figure emerged. Dressed sharply in a tailored suit, he appeared out of place in the shabby neighborhood. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice smooth yet commanding. Sarah and Emily exchanged wary glances. "Can we help you?" asked Sarah, her protective instincts kicking in. "Who's asking? What do you want with her?" "I'm a friend of Mark's," he replied, his gaze shifting between the two of them. "He's worried about her." Emily's eyes widened. "Mark? You mean my dad?" Sarah felt a wave of protectiveness wash over her. As much as she wanted to keep Emily away from the complex web of his world, she also knew they needed to understand the intentions of this stranger. Why is he worried? The man hesitated, glancing back at the car as if gauging how much to reveal. He heard about what she's been doing, helping the people at the shelter. He feels you two need support, resources to make a bigger impact. He wants to help. Emily turned to Sarah, her face a mixture of hope and fear. Mom, maybe we should listen. Maybe this is the opportunity we need. Don't get ahead of yourself, Sarah warned, feeling the tension twisting within. Despite her protectiveness, Mark's resources could mean a world of difference. But at what cost? Mark only wishes to guide Emily, the man urged as he sensed her hesitation. We can channel that passion into action, something that could truly help others, and at the same time, keep her safe. Sarah stared into the man's eyes, searching for assurance, for sincerity. At that moment, a thought struck her. A decision loomed. However risky, the offer was enticing, more than she had ever anticipated. Just then, a muffled voice rose from the shadows at the edge of the street. "What's going on here?" Shivers raced down Sarah's spine as she turned, fully aware that tonight wasn't over yet. Another figure stepped into the dim light, their face shrouded in shadow, but their presence unmistakably looming. It was only then, surrounded by uncertainty, that Sarah realized the thread of fate was tightening around them, bringing both danger and opportunity closer than ever before. Who was that waiting in the shadows, and what role would they play in the unfolding story? The figure stepped into the light, revealing a woman with striking features and an intense gaze. The air seemed to charge around her, a palpable energy that made Sarah's heart race. "You shouldn't be talking to him," she said softly, but her tone was firm. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded, holding Emily protectively to her side. "I'm Laura," the woman replied, unblinking. "I've been keeping an eye on Emily, on both of you." Confusion clouded Sarah's mind. Why? She wanted to trust this woman, but the intensity of the situation made her defensive. Laura sighed, stepping closer, her eyes flicking to Emily. Because Mark is not the person he pretends to be. He's been involved in things that could endanger you both. He may offer support, but it comes with strings attached. Emily's expression was a mix of confusion and intrigue as she looked between the two adults. "But he wants to help us," she interjected. "He could make our project so much bigger." "That's exactly what he wants you to think," Laura countered, her voice low but urgent. "He thrives on manipulation. He doesn't just want to help, he wants to control." Sarah felt the weight of Laura's words pressing against her chest. The idea that Mark could have ulterior motives left a bitter taste in her mouth. "What do you know about us, about Emily's project?" "I know everything," Laura said, her eyes softening slightly as they met Emily's. "I've watched you at the shelter, how you both care for others. That's why I'm here, to protect you. You have something precious, something that people like Mark will exploit." Emily turned to her mom, her eyes wide with conflicting emotions. "What if she's right, Mom? What if he's lying, and this is our chance to really change things?" Panic bubbled in Sarah's chest. They had finally found something meaningful to hold on to, a chance to make a real difference, and now it was being threatened by all these questions. "We don't know her," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. "How do you expect us to trust you?" Laura took a step back, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "You're right. Trust is earned," she said. "But if you go down this path with Mark, you'll find yourselves deeper than you can imagine. I can help you avoid that. I've seen what happens to girls like Emily at the hands of men like him." Tension crackled in the air, and Sarah glanced at the man who stood there silently, his face betraying nothing. She didn't want to concede to fear, but the thought of Emily being manipulated, being put at risk, sent a wave of cold through her. "Think about it," Laura urged, her voice dropping to a whisper filled with urgency. You have the potential to do great things, but you need to do it on your terms, not someone else's. Emily's breath hitched as she processed it all, the danger, the possibilities, and the desperate need to protect her dreams. "Mom," she said quietly, "I want to help people. I want to do it right. Can we trust her?" Sarah looked at her daughter, at the determination shining in her eyes. For the first time, she felt the weight of responsibility for Emily's future feel even heavier. Was she going to let the glimmer of hope be extinguished by fear? Before she could respond, the man cleared his throat, breaking the charged silence. "You need to make a choice," he said, his voice holding a hint of urgency now, "and know that once the path is chosen, there might not be going back." The weight of the moment hung thick, both paths looming before them, one filled with the glitter of promises and the shadows of control, the other shrouded in uncertainty but a sense of safety. The decision could change everything. What would they choose, and what consequences would follow? As the night deepened around them, Sarah felt the pulse of fate quicken. The future stretched ahead, tantalizing and terrifying, and she knew the next step would be monumental. The silence that followed echoed in Sarah's mind, wrapping around her like a tight coil. The choice loomed heavy, a fork in the road that twisted her insides with anxiety. Emily's wide eyes trembled with both hope and fear, reflecting the uncertainty swirling in Sarah's heart. She felt the gravity of the moment, the need to shield Emily, to guide her in this confusing world. "Emily," Sarah began, her voice steady yet fragile, "this isn't just about your project. It's about safety. It's about trusting who we believe is on our side." Laura's eyes flickered, but she held her ground. "And what if Mark is not who he seems? What if he's leading you straight into danger, disguised as an opportunity?" The tension grew, stretching thin like an old rubber band, ready to snap. Emily glanced back at Mark, who was still watching with an inscrutable expression. Was it concern, excitement, or something darker, lurking behind the congenial facade? "Mom, you've said it yourself. We need to take risks to help others," Emily replied, her voice stronger now. "This could change everything for so many people. I can't just walk away without knowing." Sarah's heart sank further. She understood her daughter's resolve. It burned bright, yet it felt dangerously naive. But what if that change harms you instead? What if this is a trap? Emily bristled, the spark of rebellion igniting in her. What if it's not? We need to at least find out. I deserve a chance to try, don't I? Caught in the crossfire of their emotions, Sarah felt the familiar tug of defensiveness. She had always wanted Emily to pursue her dreams, but never at such a risk. The fear of losing everything disturbed her, whispering echoes of past mistakes. Laura stepped closer, her tone fiercely protective. "Emily, I admire your passion, but you can achieve your goals without compromising your safety. There are other ways to access resources and support that don't involve people who manipulate for their gain." Silence fell again. The tension turned electric, wrapping around them like a thundercloud. And then, into this charged moment, Mark's calm voice finally broke through. "You're both making this more complicated than it needs to be," he said evenly. "I want to help, and I have the means and connections to do so. I'm not the enemy here." That realization hung in the air. Sarah turned her gaze to Mark, searching for any trace of deception in his eyes. "How do we know you're telling the truth?" His reaction was instant, a subtle tightening in his jaw, a flicker of irritation. You'll have to trust me, or you can keep standing here and debating until you're both blue in the face." Emily looked at Sarah, her expression pleading. "What if we miss out? What if this is our moment?" "But at what cost?" Sarah whispered, her heart pounding as the weight hit her, all that stood to be gained or lost. The fog of doubt clung thickly, but Laura interjected softly, "It's not just about making a choice. It's understanding the paths laid before you and knowing what each can truly bring." As Emily looked torn between ambition and her mother's caution, Sarah felt her resolve wavering. The hope and peril danced before her like fireflies at dusk. At that moment, fate clutched tight, whispering possibilities into her ear. "What if we could see what Mark offers and keep our defenses up? A trial run of sorts," Sarah suggested, her heart racing with the wild idea. Emily's breath hitched again, a spark of excitement lighting her features. "You mean it? We can explore this together?" But before Sarah could respond, Laura's expression darkened. "You have to be careful with your heart. It's easy to create chains disguised as opportunities." As night draped heavier around them, Sarah sensed the swirling currents of change, threatening to carry them where they might not want to go. There was no easy way forward, only uncertainty. Would they take a leap into the unknown, or would caution guide their steps? And as the stakes climbed, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that whatever choice they made would haunt them long after the sun rose. What path would they truly step onto, and what shadows would follow? Emily's pulse raced at her mother's suggestion. The prospect of a trial run, a way to dip their toes into Mark's world without plunging headfirst, felt like a miracle. Shivers of anticipation coursed through her. She turned to Mark, searching for the slightest hint that he was as eager about this arrangement as she was. But Mark's lips curled into a confident smile. "That's exactly what I was hoping for," he replied, his voice smooth. The way he carried himself with an air of assurance was intoxicating. Was he genuinely interested in helping her, or was he just playing the part well? But Sarah, ever cautious, couldn't suppress the feeling of dread. "We need boundaries," Sarah said, her voice firm. "This isn't an open invitation to run wild. We'll proceed slowly, and we'll keep communication open." Mark nodded, though the amusement in his gaze made Sarah wary. Did he see them as naive, easy targets in his grand game? But all Emily could see was potential, a chance to break through to something bigger than herself. "Thank you, Mom," Sarah said softly, while stealing a glance at Mark, her excitement threatening to bubble over. "I promise we'll be cautious." Laura, watching the exchange, placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder and squeezed gently. "It's a step, but remember, steps can lead you to places you didn't anticipate." With a casual nod from Sarah, the decision was made. They left the park, a husk of tension left in the air like a lingering storm cloud. Each step felt heavy as they walked the familiar path home, but a flicker of hope danced behind Emily's eyes. When they reached home, the atmosphere was charged with uncertainty. Emily busied herself by organizing her notes on her project, while Sarah mulled over the day's events in the kitchen. The kettle whistled, steam rising like the fleeting moments they just shared. "Mom," Emily called out, breaking the trance, "do you think Mark could really help us?" The question hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Sarah took a deep breath, the warmth of the steam washing over her. "I don't know, honey. We have to be vigilant. People aren't always what they seem." Sipping her tea, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into the dark depths below. What if Mark turned out to be the distraction that pulled them away from what was real? The following days spun into an exhilarating blur. Emily and Mark began their meetings, often taking place at coffee shops where ideas flowed as freely as the caffeine. Each time, Sarah remained on edge, her protective instincts flaring each time Emily would step out the door. Yet, in the shadows of her worry, she sensed the subtle shifts in Emily. There was a newfound confidence that sparked in her daughter, a light that hadn't been there before. But as the days turned into weeks, tiny fragments of unease began to surface. Emily's late-night calls and whispered conversations became the norm, and where there was light, shadows lurked, creeping around the edges of their lives. Then, one evening, as Sarah sat curled up on the couch, her heart sank at the sound of her daughter's laughter spilling into the room. It was loud and bright, but it didn't reach her. Instead, it felt alien, a fleeting echo of the girl Sarah once knew. "What's going on, Em?" Sarah finally asked, breaking the silence. Emily's laughter faded, replaced with a hesitant grin. "Nothing, Mom, just catching up with Mark about the project." But something in her tone struck a chord deep within Sarah. Was it just about the project? Or was there something more stirring beneath the surface, beyond the spreadsheets and PowerPoints? As doubt gnawed at her, her breath caught. Whatever was blossoming between them, it was fragile, and the winds of change were howling. What if the thrill of adventure came at the cost of something irretrievable? The tension was thick in the air. What secrets lay nestled within Emily's smiles? Sarah's heart thudded in her chest, restless and wary. She had to know. And just as the thought took shape, Emily's phone buzzed with a text. Sarah's heart skipped as she watched her daughter glance at the screen, her eyes shimmering with excitement. What news awaited them now? The chilling feeling that the adventure might come with dark tides wrapped around her. What lay ahead, and could they navigate these murky waters together without being swept away? Emily slipped upstairs to her room, her heart racing with excitement. The text on her phone had been from Mark, of course. It was a late-night invitation to join him for a movie, anything to celebrate the progress they had made on their project. The idea sent waves of both eagerness and worry through her. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, warning her of the dangers lurking beneath the surface. Yet the thrill of stepping into Mark's world was too intoxicating to resist. In her room, Emily stood before the mirror, running her fingers through her hair, taking a steadying breath. This wasn't just another night out. This was an opportunity to uncover the layers of mystery surrounding Mark. What did he want, really? Still, her excitement felt like a tightrope walk. One slip could lead to disaster. "You're going out?" Sarah's voice interrupted Emily's thoughts as she knocked softly on the door before stepping inside. "Just Mark and I. Project stuff," Emily replied, keeping her tone neutral, but Sarah could see the sparkle in her eyes. "Make sure your phone is charged. I want you to check in, okay?" Sarah said, her concern painted across her features. "You worry too much, Mom," Emily said, with a playful roll of her eyes. But deep down, she understood her mother's feelings. The bond between them felt stretched, taut with tension and unspoken fears. "Just promise me you'll be careful." Sarah stepped forward, pulling Emily into a tight embrace, feeling the warmth of her daughter seeping into her skin. Emily nodded, the lingering hug sealing the unspoken agreement between them. It would be a night filled with exploration, but anchored in safety. Hopefully. An hour later, Emily stood at the coffee shop where they first met. The ambient glow of neon lights painted the scene in a dreamy hue, making everything feel surreal and fresh. When she spotted Mark across the room, leaning casually against the bar, an excited flutter grew in her stomach. He looked up, and their eyes locked. His smile ignited something warm within her. As they settled into their seats, the conversation flowed effortlessly. They discussed films and hobbies, revealing layers of their personalities, inch by inch. Yet, every now and then, a tension crackled beneath the surface, like static energy waiting to erupt. "Have you ever wondered if we're living in a simulation?" Mark quipped, his eyes dancing with mischief. Emily laughed, but something about the question nagged at her. "What do you mean?" "Everything feels so designed. What if life is just a series of algorithms?" Mark leaned in, and she could see the passion in his gaze. "Sounds dark," Emily countered, though curiosity flitted at the edges of her mind. Was he playing with ideas, or did they signal something deeper in his own history? They soon switched gears, laughing over silly memes, and for a moment everything felt perfect. But then Mark's expression softened, his gaze turning serious. "You know, I wasn't always this. Well, you see me now, right? Things haven't always been easy." The confidence that usually surrounded him dimmed slightly, hinting at shadows lurking behind his bright exterior. Emily leaned in closer, captivated. "What do you mean?" She felt a sudden urge to peel back the layers, to understand what kept him tethered. Before he could answer, the bustling cafe began to dim, and her phone buzzed violently on the table. It was a text from her mother, urgent and strained. "Emily, please come home. Now. It's important." A cold rush enveloped her. What could be so urgent that it interrupted her moment with Mark? The feeling of dread tightened in her chest as she looked up at him, confusion etched across her face. "I have to go." Mark's brows furrowed in concern, but she couldn't explain. Panic scrambled her thoughts as she grabbed her things and dashed out of the cafe. The thrill of the night had been replaced by a heavy weight of fear. What awaited her? The late-night air felt cold and unwelcoming against her skin, a reminder that sometimes the path to discovery led straight into the unknown. As she hurried home, her heart raced with questions. What had her mother found? Was it simply worry, or something darker lurking beneath the surface? In one night, everything had shifted, and Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she had stepped into a larger story, one that was just beginning to unfold. Emily burst through the door, her heart pounding like a wild drum. She didn't stop to think about her surroundings. The house felt dim, shadows creeping in corners, and the usual warmth replaced with an unsettled chill. "Emily?" she called out, her voice shaking slightly, echoing through the empty halls. The silence felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. The only sound was the faint ticking of the clock and the rustle of leaves outside, whispering secrets of their own. "Emily, in here!" Sarah's voice came from the living room, a strained urgency thickening each word. As she rushed into the room, she found her mother pacing back and forth. Sarah wore a crease of worry etched deep between her brows, and her hands fidgeted nervously. Her stomach knotted, uncertain if she wanted to hear what was coming next. "What happened?" Emily asked, stepping tentatively forward, as if to protect herself from the unknown. Sarah turned to her, her expression softening. "It's your father." The words hung heavy in the air. Emily's breath hitching at the mention of him felt like an uninvited ghost suddenly in the room. "What about him?" Emily's voice was barely above a whisper. They hadn't spoken of him in so long, and even when they did, it was a mix of memories and pain. He's been trying to reach out." Sarah hesitated, glancing away. "I got a letter today. He wants to talk." "A letter?" Emily's heart sank further. Her father had been absent for years, unraveling our lives and leaving them to pick up the pieces. And now he wanted to talk? Why now? "It's not just that. Sarah struggled for words, emotions flickering like candlelight in her eyes. He's been asking about you. He seems different. I think he's changed." Emily felt the world tilt, a mixture of anger and confusion swirling inside her. "Changed? After all this time? Why should I trust him?" Her voice trembled, a raw nerve exposed to the air. "Because sometimes people deserve a second chance. We all make mistakes. But some mistakes destroy lives," Emily shot back, fire igniting in her belly. "Why should I even consider it?" Sarah stepped closer, her eyes pleading. "Because he's still your father, and I think he wants to make things right." The truth hung uncomfortably between them, and Emily felt the weight of the words crashing down on her. It was like lifting a boulder. The burden of possibility felt impossible. "What do I even say to him?" Emily finally asked, her voice barely audible, as doubt clouded her thoughts. We can't control how he responds, but we can control how we react and what we want. It's your decision, her mother replied gently, brushing a stray hair from Emily's face, a reminder of their connection. Emily turned, looking out the window at the night sky, trying to decipher the constellations. Was this the same man she once loved? Did he deserve a chance? The pulsating anxiety mingled with flickers of hope, creating a whirlwind of thoughts. Mark's face flashed through her mind. The pull of connection they shared felt stronger than any tether Emily had with her father, but now she was being asked to reconcile a past that seemed so distant, even as it loomed over her present. "What if he hurts us again?" Emily's words trembled, barely above a whisper. "We won't know until we try." Her reply was steady, filled with both understanding and resolve. As they stood together, Emily felt the first inklings of resolution. There would be no simple answers in this journey, but facing life with her mother side by side felt like a firm foundation. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the texture of her decision hovering in the air. But as the reality settled around them, a sudden knock at the door shattered their moment of clarity. Emily's stomach dropped. Who could it be? "Stay here," she said firmly to her mom, though uncertainty dripped from her voice. With each step toward the door, the pull of the night felt heavier. What awaited her on the other side? A moment that would crack the secrets wide open, or a shadow from the past stepping back into light? Her heart raced, and curiosity mingled with fear. Could this be the moment everything changed again? As Emily opened the door, she was unprepared for the sight before her. Uncertainty hung thick in the air, and a single question burned bright in her mind. Who stood there waiting for her? Standing on the porch was a figure cloaked in shadows, the dim streetlight barely illuminating his features. Emily's breath hitched when she recognized him. "Mark?" she whispered, the name escaping like a secret. His face, usually so steady and confident, was twisted in concern. "Emily, thank God. I was worried I'd get here too late." "What are you doing here?" Panic, intertwined with relief, surged through her. Mark had been her anchor in turbulent times, their connection a lifeline when everything else felt uncertain. "I needed to see you." "I heard your mom's voice earlier, and I couldn't wait." He shifted his weight, anxiety radiating off him in waves. "I know things got complicated between us." Complicated? That was an understatement. The last time they'd spoken, words had been thrown like daggers between them, leaving behind a thick tension that neither could shake off. But in this moment, looking into his stormy eyes, she felt a glimmer of familiarity. "Complicated doesn't even begin to cover it," she replied, crossing her arms, trying to shield herself from the rush of emotions threatening to swirl around her. "My life is already chaotic. My father, he wants to reach out, and now you—" "I want to be here for you, Emily," Mark said, stepping forward as if trying to bridge the invisible chasm that had formed. "I know I messed up, but I'm ready to face it. I just want to help you through this." Emily felt a flutter of hope, but buried it under layers of hesitation. "You think you can just come back and fix everything? Nothing is that simple." "I don't want to fix everything," Mark replied, desperation seeping into his voice. "I want to be the support you need, if you'll let me." The looming shadows of the house felt heavy against her back. Could she really let him in again? Could she risk it when everything felt so uncertain? With her dad's return swirling in her mind, she feared letting Mark back in would only complicate things further. But then a spark of warmth flickered inside, reminding her of laughter and comfort they once shared, how his optimism blended seamlessly with her worries. Every part of her wanted to reach out for that warmth. I don't know, Mark," she said finally, the conflict tearing her in two. "Everything's a mess, and I'm not sure I can handle more change." "If you give me a chance, I promise to be there for you, not to overwhelm you, but just to help however I can." he urged, concern etched deep in his features. As she fought against the tightening knot in her chest, Emily caught a glimpse of her mom watching from the living room, a mixture of hope and worry on her face. She could see Sarah's silent encouragement. Did she dare take a leap? Just then, the air shifted, a chill creeping in around them as the clouds shifted overhead, casting a shadow across Mark's face. It mirrored her doubt. She had to make a choice. "I need time," Emily finally whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know what tomorrow holds." Mark nodded, his expression dimming but not extinguished. "I'll wait. Just know I'm here when you're ready." With that, he stepped back into the night, the space between them stretching once more. Emily closed the door slowly, leaning against it, as if the weight of the world pressed against her. In those moments, she felt suspended between two worlds, the past and a future yet to be defined. How could she navigate the storm without losing herself completely? As the silence settled back in, the unknown loomed larger than ever. What would the letter from her father bring, and how would it intertwine with Mark's presence in her life? Her heart raced again as she replayed the night's events. Change was coming, but was she ready? Emily took a deep breath, looking toward the dim light of the living room, wondering how she would face the truth that awaited her, both in the letter and in her heart. Would she choose to confront her father first, or explore what her relationship with Mark could become? The night felt heavy, and she wasn't sure if dawn would bring clarity or confusion. Little did she know, both her past and present were about to collide in ways she could never have imagined. The following days turned into a whirlwind of emotions for Emily and Sarah. As the letter from her father lay on the kitchen table, its presence felt heavy, almost suffocating, while Mark's offer loomed just beyond reach, waiting for Emily to step closer to it. One evening, Sarah broke the silence that had enveloped them, casting anxious glances at the letter that remained unopened. "Maybe it's time," she began, her voice soft yet firm, "to see what he has to say." Emily looked at the letter, the edges wrinkled and worn, as if it had traveled for too long. "What if he hurts me again?" she asked, her voice just above a whisper. "Then we deal with it together, like we always have," Sarah replied, crossing the space to sit beside her. "You are not alone in this, Em. You never have been." The truth of her mother's words wrapped around Emily like a warm blanket, soothing her fears. "But what if this changes everything?" she murmured, gazing into her mother's eyes, finding strength in them. "That's the reality of life, sweetheart. Things will change, but facing the unknown is part of growth. You need to decide if it's worth taking that step forward." With a heavy heart, but filled with a flicker of determination, Emily reached for the letter, her fingers trembling ever so slightly. The fragrant scent of paper wafted up, wrapping around her like a nostalgic memory. She tore the envelope, the anticipation knotting her stomach. The words inside were straightforward, yet filled with something deeper: regrets, apologies, and a longing for redemption. Her father expressed how he had missed her while battling his own demons. He wrote, "I've changed, and I want to show you that person." Tears pooled in Emily's eyes as she read the sincerity in his words, battling the whirlwind of emotions surfacing within her. This could be the opportunity of closure she didn't even know she needed. "What do you think?" Sarah asked gently, her voice filled with patience and understanding. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken fears and glimmers of hope. Emily wiped away a tear, staring at the letter. I think I want to meet him, but I want to do it like we talked about, together." A radiant smile broke across Sarah's face, her own heart swelling with pride. "That's brave, Em, and I'll be right by your side." As they embraced, a warmth spread through Emily, mingling with the underlying fear. She was terrified of what might come, yet there was a sense of resoluteness that felt different this time. This was her story now, and she was ready to reclaim her narrative. The next day, they decided to face her father. A small cafe, a neutral ground, was chosen for their meeting. Emily fiddled with her fingers as they waited, glancing at every new face that walked through the door. Anxiety pulsed through her veins like a surging tide. And then he walked in, her father. He looked older, weary lines etched across his face, but there was something softer in his eyes. It was a vulnerability that hadn't existed before. "Emily," he said, his voice cautious yet filled with longing. She felt her heart race as she met his gaze. This was the man who had abandoned her, yet here he was, ready to confront the past. "Hi, Dad," she replied, her voice steady but laced with raw honesty. The conversation unfolded slowly, like a delicate flower, full of cautious petals revealing truths one layer at a time. She listened as he explained his journey, the battles he had fought, and how much he regretted the years lost. It was not a facade, but the reality of raw emotions as they delved into difficult memories and uncertain futures. "So, you really want to do this? You want to be part of my life again?" Emily asked, the vulnerability reflected in her own eyes. "I do," he replied, earnest and transparent. "I know it won't be easy, and I can't promise I'll get it right, but I want to try, if you'll let me." As their conversation continued, a sense of weight began to lift off Emily's shoulders. Forgiveness was not instantaneous, but this was a start, a genuine desire to reshape their reality together. After their meeting concluded, Emily and Sarah breathed deeply, the tension dissipating into the air. "How do you feel?" Sarah asked, her motherly concern palpable. "I feel lighter, Mom," Emily admitted, a smile breaking across her face. "Like I finally let go of some of the past." They hugged tightly, and in that moment, they both knew the transformation wasn't solely about embracing her father again. It was about Emily learning to forgive, to trust herself, and to embrace the uncertainty of change. Not long after, Mark checked in to see how things had gone, and Emily felt an urge to reach back out to him. She wanted to share this newfound strength, knowing that her journey was intertwining with the one he was offering. When she called him, her heart raced, excitement twinkling in her eyes. "Hey, I talked to my dad," she blurted out, feeling a rush of exhilaration. "That's amazing, Em. How did it go?" His enthusiasm was infectious, and she found herself smiling just hearing his voice. "It felt right, Mark. I finally see the way forward," she said, the weight of her earlier fears replaced by a sense of clarity.
"And I'd love for you to be part of that, if you're still with me." "I've got your back always," he assured, a smile evident even through the phone. "Let's keep building that project. We can really create something meaningful together." Emily's heart soared. She had faced her fears and expanded her horizons. With each step taken, the obstacles that had once seemed insurmountable began to fade, giving way to a clearer future filled with possibilities. As her journey continued to unfold between the delicate threads of past and present, she felt the steady beat of hope guiding her forward. Together with her mother, her father, and Mark, they would make waves, small yet persistent ripples of change in a world yearning for connection, care, and kindness. The profound truth echoed loudly in her heart. Transformation is possible, even amid chaos, and together they could accomplish greatness. The dawn of possibility awaited them, and in the light of that rising sun, Emily was ready to embrace whatever came next, each step forward a testament to resilience and love. Now this is the moment for you to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on these incredible stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more people who need to see this transformation.
Comment below your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey with us. Your support is crucial. Together, we can create a community that thrives on the power of connection and hope.